Hello YouTube, this is Froogle and welcome to another Froogles Hangar. Today I'm going to take a look at Jane Whittaker's Dangerous Approaches for FSX Steam Edition. Now, they come up as missions. What you do is you go into the mission section once you've bought the DLC and they appear in here in the category of Dangerous Approaches. And there's a few approaches, 20 I think, yep, 20, to test your piloting skills in some fairly tricky approaches, ranging from, well this one, flying into Hong Kong during a thunderstorm, all the way up to, let's look at Expert and see what we've got here. Lisbon to Madeira. Madeira's a pretty dangerous or scary approach. Fly the notorious Castlegar approach, nestled deep within the mountains of British Columbia, not for the faint-hearted. From Quito to La Paz, from Miami to Tonconte in Honduras. We're going to keep it simple and do this one. Fly from St. Kitts to St. Barts, St. Barts being an infamous approach. The runway is actually nestled behind a very steep hill that you need to fly down without hitting the hill, obviously, in order to land on a very short runway, otherwise you end up in the ocean. Now, before we get started, let's talk about who this is targeted at, because I think that's quite important. Everything you're about to see in here, you could do yourself. Really, realistically, if you know what you're doing, you know, it's not a difficult thing to plan a flight from St. Kitts to St. Barts. It's not a difficult thing to set the weather appropriately, the time of day, and so on and so on. If you already know how to do all this stuff, then this DLC is really not aimed at you. It's aimed at people who've just got introduced to FSX by virtue of FSX Steam Edition. So they've just bought Dovetail's version of FSX on Steam, and I think history has shown, for example with Train Simulator, that when people buy Train Simulator, the first place they go and look for DLC to get a better view of what the sim can do and to really get into it is, of course, Steam. And historically, so far, Dovetail have been re-releasing First Class Simulations DLC, which isn't that good. So Dangerous Approaches is the first original DLC for new pilots to FSX to really show them some of the stuff that you can do in FSX. Of course, you can plan all this stuff yourself. Of course you don't need to spend any money to plan all this stuff or do all this stuff all on your own. That's not really the point. The point is for people that don't know how to do that, that have never had any idea that you can plan a flight or fly to all these weird and wonderful places in the world and really challenge yourself. That's really who this is aimed at. Now, each of these missions is voiced by Heaven Angel Lee. Some of the missions have more text than others. The one we're going to do here, I only picked up 2 recordings of Heaven Angel Lee when I flew this yesterday. That would be her saying, "Takeoff when ready," and just a short jump to St. Barts, and that's all she says. But even so, it's pretty cool. It does set up everything for you. It sets a program route in the GPS and so on. Now, you'll notice there's a checkbox here. Enable changes in selected missions. If you turn that off and do one of these missions, then what happens is you get thrown into an FSX default aircraft, which many of us are not particularly huge fans of. But again, if you're new to FSX, that's probably going to be pretty fine. I've got this checked because I'm going to change the default aircraft. The default aircraft, as you can see, is a Cessna 172. I haven't flown the A2A Simulations Cherokee in a very long time and fancy derusting my skills there, so I'm going to do that. So I've left this checked on. Once we get into the sim, we will change the aircraft. So let's go to briefing. And it says, recommended is a 172, it's a 20-minute flight. We're going to visit the Caribbean with a short pleasure flight taking tourists to the idyllic St. Barts. Now I have Active Sky Next running, the new beta for FSX Steam Edition, and I'm using historic time, and historically when this mission was set up, there's a thunderstorm coming in. So right now it's good, it's VFR conditions, but you can hear in the distance thunder and all sorts of nastiness coming our way. So obviously the winds are also starting to pick up, which is going to make this even more of a challenge. Jane says in the tips here, a short island hop, but not without its adventure. The runway at St. Barts is notorious due to its short length. This isn't helped by the steep approach as we make an easterly landing. The airport is widely regarded as simultaneously one of the most dangerous airports in the world and also one of the most scenic. Given the short stopping distance, even for our Cessna, you should ensure a clean landing in the touchdown zone, which is incredibly hard to do, trust me, with immediate braking. If it appears that you're going to be landing a little too far down the runway, immediately apply full throttle and go around. You're going to need all of the runway length for a successful stop. The use of full flaps and an approach speed of 65 knots will assist with the braking effect as you decelerate on the runway. Now, the Cherokee's very similar performance to the Cessna. 65 knots is a pretty good approach speed with full flaps in the Cherokee. Stalling speed for us is going to be around about 55 to 57, and I'm actually going to try to get closer to that. I did try this yesterday. I did fail miserably, repeatedly, over and over and over, so who knows how this one's going to go. I'm going to click on fly and I'll cut the video here and I'll see you once we get into the sim. Alright, so here we are in the default Cessna 172. I'm just going to sit here for a minute because you'll hear Heaven Angel Lee start speaking in a moment. She's very quiet and I can't find a way of turning up the volume.
Takeoff when ready.
There you go, takeoff when ready. Now, I don't know how to adjust the volume of her. I have tried various sliders and I can't figure it out. It's something I need to look at. And I did wait here until she spoke just to make sure that the mission's working. I think you can change the aircraft before she kicks in, but I really like to play things a little bit safe. So bear with me a few moments. Going to cut once again, and when we come back, we'll be exactly the same spot, but this time sitting in A2A's amazing Piper Cherokee. And we are back in the Cherokee. Let me just pop outside and show you what this looks like. Beautiful aircraft for those of you who've never seen it before. Now this is kind of interesting, I guess, in some ways, in that, you know, I'm not using a default aircraft because I don't like them, and I hope more and more publishers sign on with Dovetail and get their aircraft, like A2A's amazing aircraft, on Steam, so that new users on Steam see the options available to them and don't just give up in disgust, I guess, at the low quality of some of the built-in aircraft. Listen to the thunder in the background there. But anyway, I'm going to use the Piper Cherokee. I want to give myself a bit of a challenge as well, beyond even trying to land. Let me pop up the little tool windows that we have. So we're cold and dark. I have got the GPS turned on. I've got a 400 over there, or a no GPS, or a GPS map 295. I'm not sure which one I'm going to go with. I think, let's go with the 400. I think I have an easy dock view set up to actually get over there and take a look at that. I do, so that's cool. Let's go back over here once again. What else we got to do? The pitot covers are on. You saw those while we were outside. You can't see it from here. There's a red tag hanging down from the wing. So we will remove the pitot covers. Good. I'm going to turn the yokes off just so I can get to all the switches in the flight deck that I need to get to for the pre-flight. And with that said, I think the last thing to do, because I might take a little while to do this, is we're going to open this window. Otherwise we'll get some fogging up and we don't want that. And I will get rid of this now. And we'll run on over, not that one, I'll actually go that one. We are carrying a full load of fuel. Just me in the aircraft. Where's the checklist? Here they are, here's the checklist. Now I've got them printed out as well. We'll try and do this a little bit by the book. So page 1, upon entering the cabin. Airplane weights and balances checked, did that. Close and secure the cabin door, done that. Remove the control wheel lock, done it. Controls are free and correct. Well, we can check that outside. Let me just grab, I'm not really set up properly, hang on, let me just grab my view control system. Okay, so there's the ailerons, they're all good, elevators are good. Not a lot of forward motion, which is a bit of a concern. And our rudder, let's see if we can change the view a little bit here. Make sure that that thing is actually deflecting, and it is. Have I got a ton of upward motion, but not very much forward motion? Okay, so with all that done, let's run through the cockpit and make sure everything is as it should be. My goodness, that thunder's starting to pick up now. So all these switches should be off, which they are. Magnetos are off. We'll check the avionics switches are all off as well, which they're not. That one needs to go there. Okay, so we're all good there. So the first thing we're going to do is just prime the engine. So I'm going to go mixture rich all the way in there. Make sure that my levers here are all working good, which they are. So we'll just put in 2, maybe 3 squirts. There's 1. There's 2. Should I go 3? Yeah, let's go 3. Great. So we'll turn the master switch on now. And with that on, we'll turn the fuel pumps on at this point as well, if I can find them. Like I said, been a while. There it is. It's a noisy fuel pump. Now we're going to hit the starter switch, and as the engine cranks over, we get 1 revolution. We'll move this over to both mags. Hopefully it works, just to make sure we got a good amount of throttle movement there. Nope, nothing. Let's try again. Nope. There we go. Now our parking brake is set, so there's no danger of moving away, but we'll bring the RPM up. Over 1,000, we'll start to lean this a little bit. So we don't foul the plugs. Now already it's quite noisy, partly because I have the window open, so let's close that window. Let's plug some headphones in down here, and we will let our aircraft's engine warm up for a couple of minutes. So with all that done, we can turn the fuel pump off at this point. Let's turn, I should have turned the beacon on, my apologies. If I can, there we go. Those are internal lights, not beacons. Froogle! That one. Let's turn the beacon on, thank you. Okay, let's turn on some avionics now. So that's on standby. We'll turn that on, that, and of course our GPS. There's the route for the mission, you can see it already. Basically take off and head directly north for a bit over the ocean until we arrive where we're supposed to be. Let's see how my engines are warming up now. Alright, needles are all green, oil temperature's coming up. We'll just wait a little bit longer here. While we're waiting, we'll go ahead and tune to ATIS. I'm using Active Sky Next, so that's 122.00.
Tango, Kilo, Papa, Kilo, airport information, Charlie, 1600, Zulu, weather, wind, 074, at 10, visibility, 10, sky condition, few clouds at 2400, temperature, 28, dew point, 23, QNH, 1017, advice on initial contact, you have information, Charlie, Tango.
So we got the QNH there, although it was in decimal, not old school. I don't know how to convert it, so I'm just going to press B to reset the QNH down here. There we go. So that is all set. Oh, nasty shearing from my display there, not sure why. Let's turn the autopilot master on at this point. Alright, I think we're suitably warmed up. Let's just check on our checklist here. I think we're all good. So let's go and start taxiing out towards the runway and get this moving. In fact, before we do that, so we don't completely fog up, I can already sense that coming. What do we got here? Cabin air. It's hard to read these. Defrost cabin vent. So let's put the cabin vent on. Defrosters a little bit. That should stop any build-up of condensation on the windshield. So, with that done, we turn on track IR. We're looking good. And we don't have any taxi lights in this, but we do have landing lights. So we'll turn those on. And let's taxi on out. Again, sorry about the shearing, I'm seeing that as well. Very unusual. I haven't used FSX Steam Edition much, and I wonder if that is a Steam Edition thing. I do have NVIDIA Inspector running with all sorts of VSync tweaks in it. It doesn't seem to be doing the job today. Hopefully that doesn't detract too much from your enjoyment of the video. I do enjoy this plane. Oh my goodness. Such a nice aircraft. So as we get ready for takeoff, we'll turn the fuel pumps on. That screen shearing is really beginning to bug me. We'll turn that off after takeoff. And let's head out on this dangerous approach. That weather's really starting to get nasty though. Okay. Airspeed alive. We'll pull back on the stick. Yoke, I should say. As that comes up, we'll retract our flaps. That's going to cause the nose to come down a little bit. Looking good so far. Let's just trim this for an appropriate level of climb. And we can turn those fuel pumps off now. So you can see our course that we need to head is to the left now. We can't just turn left because there's a huge hill in the way. So we'll keep on climbing out trim this a little bit more. Out to about 2,500, 3,000 feet. We can probably start our turn now. So feeding in some left rudder there, a little bit too much maybe. And around we go. Now, these dangerous approaches does actually have a manual. I didn't know this until I spoke with Jane. She says if you go onto the store page for the Dangerous Approaches DLC, on the right hand side of the store page there's a link to manual. If you download that, you have a PDF with hints and tips about all of the adventures, as well as a document showing you those briefings that you see when you first start a mission. So pretty handy stuff. I missed it. I'm sure many of you will if you pick this up, but be sure to pick up the manual. Gives you a nice printed reference. Oops, we're in cloud. Not a big deal. We'll keep the aircraft level. We're not heading towards any mountains. We are over clear ocean at this point, as you can see on the GPS. Trick is now just to not panic. Keep the aircraft nice and level. It's going to get jostled around a bit if you're using something like Active Sky Next, like me. There's our 3,000, so it just came off the power. We'll bring the nose down. We'll try to level this. Now don't chase that vertical speed needle. It's not instantaneous. Look at your other instruments. And I think we're in good shape. Although in a cloud. Whoops. Turning a little bit. Gust of wind knocked us slightly off course to the right. About to come out of the cloud, I think, from that glimpse I just saw. There we are. Alright, so trimming. While we're doing that, we'll lean the engines a little. As I pull back the mixture, I'm watching that EGT gauge, and it's rising and it's rising and it's rising until it starts to drop, which is there. Then we go forward a bit more. So we're good. We're trimmed out. A little bit high, but that's okay. The engine is nicely leaned. We can go a little bit nose down trim. Now, this is what I mean about not chasing the needles. I've just put a bit of nose down trim in. So we are starting to descend, but as we do, the speed will come up. And as we generate more speed, that will generate more lift from the wings, so the nose will start to come back up again. If we start to get dangerously close to overspeed, then we'll just reduce power and trim again. Every time you change the attitude of the aircraft, so changing power settings or anything like that, you need to retrim. Those of you who are new. Beautiful. It's nicely trimmed now at 3,000 feet. We're very stable. We're slightly off course. Let's see if we can get back on course. And now we just sit and wait and try to hold the aircraft nice and stable. Having Active Sky running, if you are new to FSX, I said this in my recent vlog, if you're new to FSX, there are a number of add-ons you need to get. Orbex FTX Global is expensive but well worth it. The other one is Active Sky Next, which is handling the weather in today's flight, and it adds a whole new dimension to the simulator with microburst, updrafts, and jet wash, prop wash, all sorts of wonderful stuff like that. That makes it a far more realistic simulator. Get it. Now I'm using that today, so we are getting occasional little gusts of wind. As we approach clouds, we are getting uneven air around the cloud. Which is all wonderful stuff and adds a great deal of challenge. Even beyond the challenge that we have, which is going to be landing in St. Barts. So about halfway there. Notice the left fuel tank now has less fuel than the right fuel tank, which is unbalancing the aircraft. You can see it kind of leaning to the right a little bit, so we'll just go and fix that. Pop on down to the fuel switch there, and we'll just dial this over to the right. Now I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little bay here. Can you see this bay right here where the mouse is? That's the approach. If you fly over that bay, you're heading towards the runway, which is on the right hand side of the island from where we currently are. So now would be a good time to start reducing our altitude and our speed. So reduce some power now. Let's bring the mixture back up. We'll get a nice gentle descent. Around about 500 to 700 feet per minute. So it's going over now, so we'll just trim it. There. Coming down on 2,300 now. You can see on the GPS it wants us to turn very soon. Can't even see the runway. You won't be able to see it unless you're a lot higher. But it's just the other side of that ridge. There. Okay, so bringing back the power even more now. Going to mixture rich. Let's turn on our landing lights. Let's turn on the fuel pumps. Now, check that we're on the right tank. Left and right are both good. We are actually on the right tank, so we're fine. Increasing our rate of descent right now, because we are very much too high. Then we'll start bringing down the speed as well, so we're going near idle on the power at this point. And we'll just hold this profile. The nose will want to drop, so we'll just pull up. Let that speed come down and we'll feed in the first stage of flaps already. There. Speed is coming down nicely. A little bit of power. Let's trim this again to counteract the back pressure I was having to exert. Next stage of flaps. We'll just double check. Landing lights are on, mixture rich, fuel pumps are on, and away we go. Might not do it this first time. Not unusual. Even looking on YouTube videos at the real airport, not unusual for people to execute go-arounds, missed approaches. Really easing up on the power now. Really want that speed to come down quite a lot, and the altitude now. I want to be passing over the ridge ahead of us at about 400 feet. And ideally descending without pitching the nose over, as you'll see in a second. So a little bit of trim there, bring the nose up a bit more. And on the power, let's go full flaps. Lots more power. We are descending, which is great. We have a good attitude on the nose. We're not pointing down. But we are very slow and descending, which is absolutely ideal. And there's 450 feet. Let's hold this. We'll do that with the power. Oh, bumpiness. And any second now we should actually start to see the runway coming into sight. My heart's already racing. I cannot imagine doing this in a real aircraft, this particular approach. I'm actually having a very hard time seeing where we are. There's the runway. Okay, so let's get this down. Off the power now. A little bit of a slip. I don't think we're going to make it. So full power. Let's bring the flaps up. Oh, you see the challenge. Just trying to gauge our position to turn on final. You remember the runway kind of points towards that far off hill, just about where it goes from forest into rock. So if we draw a straight line from us to that, and another landmark I'm looking at is the chimney smoke from the village over here on this side of the island. Draw a straight line between that chimney smoke and that rock, that should be the runway heading. Right, fuel pump's on. There's the runway, just coming into view now. Trying to look through the hill and imagine it's not there, and we just have a normal approach, or a somewhat steep approach to a normal runway. Let's see how that stands us instead. Alright, let's ease up on this rate of descent here. We're going to be a little bit too low. It does drop off dramatically on the other side of this ridge, so you can afford to lose quite a bit of speed there. There we go. There was a stall warning light just came on. Full flaps now. Get down. It's going to be long. And braking. Welcome to St. Bart's. That was a crazy approach.
Congratulations. An excellent approach.
Haha, success! Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. As I said, this was Dangerous Approaches from Jane Whittaker, the first original DLC for FSX Steam Edition. Like I pointed out at the beginning of this video, not really something the more experienced among us who know how to plan a flight would really get much value out of. That said though, I think this could be a nice introduction for new people coming to FSX Steam Edition. You just load up the aircraft or an aircraft of your choice. The GPS is already set with the route, and away you go into some very challenging airports in very challenging conditions, as you just saw. As always, my name is Froogle, and until next time, I'll see you soon.